The deception, the conference hall on. Unity music, station gleamed under. Artificial lights, a monument to. Diplomatic achievement floating in. Neutral space between Earth and the outer territories. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the podium, her hand trembling slightly as she signed the final document. Around her, representatives from 47 alien species watched in silence. The Galactic Council had finally agreed to recognize humanity as a full member of the interstellar community. It had taken 30 years of negotiations, countless compromises, and the sacrifice of Earth's most advanced technology shared freely as gestures of goodwill. Sarah smiled at the council's High Arbiter, a towering being named Quilser from the Zenth Collective. His 3 eyes blinked in what humans had learned to interpret as approval. The treaty was signed. Humanity had arrived among the stars as equals, or so they believed. Captain Marcus Webb watched the ceremony from his command chair. Aboard the S Horizon, one of Earth's newest diplomatic escorts, his crew celebrated quietly, aware they were witnessing history. Marcus had fought in the border conflicts against pirate clans, had seen friends die in the cold vacuum of space. This peace meant something. It meant their sacrifices had built something better. He allowed himself a rare smile, thinking of his daughter back on Earth who would grow up in a universe where humans belonged, but 3 light years away in the shadows of the Void Reach sector. A different gathering was taking place. The true council, not the diplomatic facade presented to humanity, met in secret. Quilt's image flickered on the hollow screen, his voice cold and clinical. The humans have delivered everything we needed: their quantum drive technology, their fusion core designs, their genetic databases, all documented and verified. Chancellor Vex of the Corvian Empire leaned forward, his reptilian features twisted in satisfaction. The fools actually believed we saw them as equals. A species barely 3 centuries into space travel, thinking they could stand beside civilizations that have existed for millennia. The arrogance would be amusing if it were not so convenient. High Commander Celis of the Drawn Armada pulled up a star map. Phase 2 begins immediately. Our fleets are already in position around their key colonies. When we strike, their fragmented military will collapse within hours. We take their worlds, harvest their resources, and eliminate the species before they become a genuine threat. The Council members voted unanimously. Humanity's usefulness had expired. The betrayal had been planned from the moment humans first reached out into space, naive and hopeful. Every treaty, every gesture of friendship had been designed to extract Earth's innovations while keeping humanity weak and divided. Now the trap would snap shut. The attack came without warning during what humans called the Festival of Unity, a celebration of their acceptance into the galactic community across 12 colony worlds. Defense satellites suddenly went dark. Emergency channels filled with screaming. Voices cut short by static. On New Terra, the agricultural hub that fed 3 billion people, Corvian warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Governor Lisa Hang watched from her office as the sky turned red. With weapons fire, she barely had time to hit the evacuation alarm before the first strikes hit the planetary shields. The barriers that had taken 10 years to construct collapsed in minutes under the concentrated assault. Lisa grabbed her emergency pack, and ran for the bunker, her mind racing through protocols that now seemed desperately inadequate. They had prepared for pirate raids, maybe. Territorial disputes, not total extermination by their supposed allies. Similar scenes played across human space. On Titan's Reach mining colony, Administrator James Park died trying to get children into escape pods before the station's atmosphere vented into space. On Frontier's Edge, the entire population of 40,000 vanished when Drathan warships glassed the planet from orbit, turning settlements into molten craters. Earth's military response was chaotic and desperate. Ships scrambled without coordination, many destroyed before they could even charge their weapons. The Galactic Council broadcast their declaration across all frequencies. Humanity had been deemed a threat to galactic stability due to their rapid technological advancement and aggressive expansion tendencies. The Council graciously offered terms of unconditional surrender, permanent disarmament, and supervision by appointed overseers. Any resistance would result in complete annihilation. They gave Earth 48 hours to respond. In the command center beneath Geneva Fleet, Admiral Helena Cross watched the tactical display with barely controlled fury. Red markers showed lost colonies, destroyed ships, millions of casualties. 30 years of peace shattered in less than 6 hours. Her staff waited for orders, their faces showing the same mixture of shock and rage she felt, but Helena had not risen to command Earth's fleets by panicking and crisis. She had contingency plans, some so classified that only 3 people in the entire Sol system knew they existed. Helena pulled up a secure comm channel, one that showed us dead space on any scanner. The encryption was military grade, beyond anything the Council had seen from humanity. She spoke a single code phrase into the darkness. The Shepherd Protocol is active. Bring them home. Silence answered her for 3 long seconds. Then a voice responded, gravelly and tired, belonging to a man the galaxy believed had died 5 years ago in a training accident. Admiral Vincent Cross, the ghost of Titan, spoke from somewhere beyond the edge of known space. Understood command. The Exodus fleet is proceeding to rally point Omega. We will be in position in 72 hours. Tell the Council we received their message. Cross paused, and Helena could hear the cold smile in his voice. And tell them humanity sends its regards. The channel went dead. Helena turned to her staff, her expression shifting from grief to something harder, something that made veteran officers straighten in their chairs. She pulled up a classified file marked Project Exodus, established 12 years ago when a faction within Earth's government had argued that humanity should never fully trust the alien powers. They had been called paranoid warmongers, pessimists who would sabotage the peace. Now their paranoia looked like wisdom. For over a decade, in the deepest reaches of space, where no Council sensors could reach, humanity had been building something. Not diplomatic ships or cargo haulers, but pure instruments of war designed by engineers who remembered Earth's bloody history and understood that predators respected only strength. 300 warships, each one incorporating lessons from every conflict humanity had ever fought, crewed by volunteers who had given up everything to live in secret exile. Exodus fleet had been waiting in the darkness, hoping they would never be needed, training for the day the galaxy showed its true face. That day had arrived. Helena addressed her staff with absolute calm. Implement fortress protocol. All remaining military assets fall back to Sol system. Evacuate non-essential personnel from orbital stations. We are going to make them bleed for every inch of space they take. She looked at the holographic representation of Earth, that blue marble that held everything humanity had ever loved. Then she looked at the incoming council fleets, hundreds of ships bearing down on humanity's cradle, with the intention of breaking them forever. They had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that the diplomatic face humanity showed them was all that humanity was. They had forgotten that humans came from a world where they had been both predator and prey, where they had waged war against themselves for thousands of years before finally reaching for the stars. They had mistaken humanity's desire for peace as a lack of capacity for violence. In 72 hours, the Exodus fleet would arrive, not to defend, not to negotiate, but to teach the Galactic Council the most important lesson in human history. There are old soldiers and bold soldiers, but there are no old bold soldiers who underestimate an enemy. The Council was about to learn why humanity had survived every extinction event their own planet had thrown at them. They were about to face humans who were done pretending to be civilized, done compromising, done hoping for acceptance. The betrayal was complete. Now came the reckoning. The Exodus fleet emerged from the darkness like ghosts materializing from nightmare. 300 warships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering born from paranoia and foresight, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Admiral Vincent Cross stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, his flagship and the largest warship humanity had ever constructed. His reflection in the viewport showed a man who had aged beyond his 50 years, gray, streaking through his hair, deep lines carved into his face from a decade of exile and preparation. Around him, his crew moved with practiced efficiency. These were men and women who had volunteered to disappear from official records, to be declared dead so they could build humanity's secret defense in the void beyond council surveillance. They had missed births, funerals, the entire lives of loved ones. Now their sacrifice would mean something. Cross studied the tactical display showing council forces pressing toward Earth's inner colonies. The enemy had committed 8 full battle groups, over 600 warships, confident that humanity's scattered defenses would crumble. Status report. Cross ordered his first officer, Commander Rachel Torres, a woman whose tactical brilliance had once earned her the youngest captain promotion in Earth's Navy before she joined the Exodus. All ships report ready for combat. Admiral, stealth systems are holding. The Council has no idea we are here. Weapon systems charged. Crews are at battle stations. She paused, allowing herself a thin smile. They're about to have a very bad day. Cross nodded slowly. The Council had taught humanity an important lesson about galactic politics. Trust was a weakness to be exploited. Mercy was naivety. Diplomacy was just warfare by another method. Humanity had been eager. Students perhaps too eager. Now it was time for the final exam. He opened a fleet-wide channel, his voice carrying to every ship, every soul who had given up everything to prepare for this moment. This is Admiral Cross to all Exodus vessels. 12 years ago we were called Paranoid for believing the galaxy might betray us, we were called warmongers. For building weapons instead of extending hands in friendship, we were declared dead so that humanity could pursue its dream of peace among the stars. Today that dream died murdered by the same aliens who smiled while planning our extinction. Cross let the anger seep into his voice, cold and controlled. They hit our colonies. Without warning, they killed millions of civilians. They believe humanity will surrender because we are young, because we are afraid, because we lack the stomach for real war. The tactical display updated, showing Council forces beginning their final approach to Mars, where the last organized human defense was gathering. Cross continued, speaking, his words sharp as broken glass. They have forgotten something crucial about humanity. We are not a species that evolved on a peaceful world. We clawed our way up from the mud and blood of Earth. We survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, nuclear fire. We reached the stars not because the universe welcomed us, but because we refused to stay down, no matter how many times reality knocked us to the ground. He zoomed the display to show the lead Council formation, the Zenth Collective's first armada under High Commander Quasar himself, the same alien who had smiled and shaken hands at the peace treaty signing. Let us remind these ancient civilizations of something they have forgotten in their millennia of comfortable dominance. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity adapts. Humanity survives. And when you back us into a corner, when you threaten our home, when you make the mistake of believing we are weak. Cross paused for effect, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than a shout. We become something far worse than you can imagine. The Exodus fleet moved as one coordinated entity, a predator finally unleashed after years of restraint. They did not charge forward in obvious aggression. Instead, they split into tactical groups using techniques developed from studying every alien battle formation in Council databases. The lead element, 60 destroyers under Captain Diana Cross, sister to fleet Admiral Helena Cross, accelerated toward the Council's flank. Their stealth systems kept them invisible until they were already among the enemy formation. The first the Council knew of their presence was when human rail guns opened fire at point-blank range. Solid slugs, moving at relativistic speeds, punched through shields designed to stop energy weapons, tearing through alien holes like paper. 3 Corvian cruisers exploded before they could even sound alarms. The precision was surgical, targeting command ships and carriers, eliminating coordination and fighter support in the opening salvo. Council forces scattered in confusion, unable to understand how human ships had appeared from nowhere. High Commander Quilser watched from his flagship, the zenith of Unity, as his formation dissolved into chaos. This is impossible, his tactical officer was screaming contradictory reports. Where did these ships come from? Our intelligence said humanity had less than 100 military vessels left. Quixer felt something unfamiliar crawling up his spine, something his species had not experienced in 3,000 years of galactic dominance. Fear. The main Exodus fleet dropped stealth and accelerated into weapons range. Cross watched the Council forces finally detect them, watched as alien commanders realized the true scale of what they faced. These were not the lightly armed diplomatic escorts and colony defenders the Council had been crushing. These were warships built with one purpose, vessels whose every system had been designed to kill efficiently and survive. Impossibly, human point defense networks, improved through a decade of wargaming. Every Council weapon system swatted down missiles like insects, energy shields built using hybrid human-alien technology absorbed beam weapons and redirected the energy into capacitors that fed even more powerful return fire. The Battle of Crimson Nebula, as it would later be known, lasted 7 hours. The Council's numerical advantage meant nothing against humanity's concentrated fury and superior tactics. Cross commanded from the Vengeance like a conductor leading a symphony of destruction. He rotated damaged ships out of combat while fresh vessels moved in, maintaining constant pressure. He exploited every gap in enemy formation, every moment of confusion, every tactical error made by alien commanders who had not fought a real war in living memory. Captain Diana Cross led her destroyer group in a devastating strike against the Council's logistics train, destroying supply ships and fuel tankers, leaving entire battle groups stranded without ammunition or power. Commander Torres coordinated the carrier groups, launching wave after wave of fighters equipped with experimental weapons human engineers had developed in secret. These were not standard missiles or energy beams. These were weapons designed specifically to counter Council technology, exploiting weaknesses humanity had identified through years of technical exchanges, disguised as cooperation. Electromagnetic pulse bombs disabled entire squadrons of Drathan fighters whose neural interfaces could not handle the massive search. Nanite swarms ate through Corvian armor that was strong against kinetic impacts but vulnerable to molecular disassembly. Quantum disruption mines collapsed the hyperspace engines of fleeing Council ships, stranding them in normal space where human rail guns found them. Every weapon showcased not just human innovation but human rage channeled into engineering perfection. High Commander Quilxer finally understood the magnitude of their mistake as human forces surrounded his flagship. His shields were failing, his weapons depleted, his crew dying around him. He had expected a short conflict ending in humanity's extinction. Instead, he had walked into a trap prepared by a species that had spent its entire history learning how to kill efficiently. Transmission request came from the human flagship. Quaxer accepted it, seeing Admiral Cross for the first time, a human who was supposed to be dead. Commander Cross spoke without emotion. You wanted to teach humanity its place in the galaxy. Consider this lesson learned. Quilxer tried to maintain dignity despite his dying ship. You cannot win. The Council has thousands of warships. More will come. We will crush you eventually. Cross smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. You still do not understand. This fleet is not here to win. It is here to make you bleed, to make the cost of attacking humanity so high that no Council member will ever vote for it again. He gestured to the tactical display showing the wreckage of what had been the Council's finest battle groups. You came to Sol with 600 ships. In 7 hours you have lost 432 vessels. How many more are you willing to sacrifice? How many more crews will die before your politicians decide that maybe leaving humanity alone is the smarter choice? Quasar said nothing, his 3 eyes wide with the realization that humanity had changed. The calculation entirely, the battle, ended not with humanity's surrender, but with the Council's retreat. The surviving alien warships jumped to hyperspace, fleeing back to their territories, carrying news of the impossible. Humanity had not just survived. Humanity had won. Cross stood on his bridge, watching the enemy flee, and felt no triumph, only exhaustion and grim satisfaction. They had bought Earth. Time had proven that humanity could not be casually exterminated, but this was not over. The Council would return, eventually with greater numbers and harder resolve, but now humanity knew the truth about the galaxy. Peace was an illusion maintained by strength. Diplomacy was merely the pause between conflicts, and in this universe of ancient predators, humanity would need to become the monster in the darkness that others feared to wake. Admiral Helena Cross transmitted from Earth, her image appearing on Cross's screen. "Vincent, you magnificent bastard, you actually did it." Cross allowed himself a tired smile. "We all did it, Helena. Every soul in this fleet, every person who believed humanity needed to prepare for the worst." The Exodus fleet began. The journey home to Earth, no longer exiles, no longer ghosts, but heroes who had saved their species from extinction. Yet Cross knew their real work was just beginning. The Council had learned humanity could fight. Now humanity needed to teach them that attacking Earth would always cost more than any victory was worth. The age of human naivety had ended in fire and betrayal. The age of human power was just beginning, and the galaxy would tremble